right, welcome one and all. I am Dr. Neva Alexander, the CEO of Neve Alliance. Again, welcome to this webinar series. As it's still COVID-19, the pandemic, and today I am relieved that I have an expert to speak with you on the topic of anxiety pandemic stressors. Today I have Felicia Smith, and she's a licensed professional counselor with her own practice called Relate to Clinic, which is a faith-based wellness agency. All right, so guys, I want you to help me to welcome Felicia Smith. Now, Felicia, before we go deep in, I do want to go over the ground rules of how the webinar is conducted. Pretty much, if anyone has any questions for us, they can submit it in the Q&A or the chat. And after you're finished speaking, I will go refer to those questions. All right, so welcome. Felicia Smith.
Good day, good day, good day. Thank you for joining us. I know I sent it to a lot of people at the last minute. Please forgive me. Some of you personally know about some personal things that I'm working through right now, so please forgive that. And thank you for joining if you have a moment to click in and listen. We do have a question about password. I'm not sure if we need a password for this webinar, Dr. Neva.
There's no password. There's a link that was sent where individuals have to register. So this is a webinar. It's not operated as the regular Zoom meetings.
Okay, let me share that with someone who is eager to join us. Thank you guys. Today, as she mentioned, we are going to be talking about some of the things that have been going on in our world. As we all know, we are actively in a pandemic. So I wanted to take a moment to just share what I call some pandemic stressors. But before I get to that, like Dr. Neva said, I am a licensed professional counselor, so I have the privilege of working with individuals who are struggling with anxiety. So I wanted to go over just briefly, and we won't keep you long today, just wanted to go over what anxiety looks like and some of the contributing factors. As of right now, they would be what we call pandemic stressors. Ordinarily, you could find me. You can find me on Instagram for those of you that have that link. You can find me on Facebook. You could also find me on my website. All of that information will be provided if it hasn't already been provided. But I also do a weekly webisode on YouTube where I do motivational moments, or I also do mental health moments. So if you're interested in more, please locate me after this webinar where you can stay tuned in. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being here today. It means a lot. With that, I want to take a moment and say a quick prayer. Let's bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for the platform for Neva Alliance to allow us to come on today to be able to share a word of encouragement for those who may be struggling with anxiety, worries, concerns throughout these pandemic stresses. Do what you always do. Father God, we believe that you can do all things because your word clearly tells us so. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. I want to always start with a word of prayer because a lot of people these days are struggling with these real pandemic stressors. All right, so with that, what is a pandemic stressor? So some of the pandemic stressors, as we all know, a lot of individuals are being affected by their health. Yes, straight up by their health. That could be individuals that are struggling with actually COVID-19. COVID-19 is a debilitating medical disorder that has affected many, many, many individuals in our nation, actually in our world. So if you haven't been affected by your health, maybe you know someone that's been affected by their health, and that could be a stressor for you because that could be an individual that is very close to you. It could be someone that is your husband, your wife, daughter, your son, your nephew, your niece, grandbaby, spouse. It could be anybody. So that could be a stressor for you. Also, employment status. As we've seen, lots of individuals have lost their jobs, lots of individuals have been furloughed, lots of individuals may have had a job contract on the table and then now it's been rescinded. So there's a lot of stress that goes into dealing with employment dynamics. And now some individuals are even having to regroup because they no longer have the option of working, in close proximity with individuals. Like Dr. Neva mentioned, in my work, typically in a counseling office, we sit pretty close. We don't sit 6 feet apart. So I've had to convert doing a lot of my work exclusively online for the betterment of both myself and the client's health. So lots of individuals are being affected by their employment status. Lots of people are dealing with a lot of uncertainty. And even those that are self-employed, people that are self-employed, which may have had 100%, customer-based business. They may not have had contracts to support their business with other business, but those individuals who are um, self-employed where customers come in and support and patronize their business, they are being drastically affected depending on the nature of the location and what type of services they offer. So that could be a huge stressor. Another one is family. Yes, family. Family stress throughout this time. We've seen a lot of, let's start with marriages. We've seen a lot of domestic violence through the quarantining stages, especially when we were on stay home orders. We've seen an increase in individuals dealing with domestic violence situations. Why do you ask? Well, people are closed in. They may be agitated with one another. They may not realize that, this marriage or this relationship has been long over. And now that they're in this close proximity with each other, they realize maybe it's over. Or they recognize that the partner or the spouse is not necessarily what they want anymore. Um, so keep that in mind. There are lots of people that are dealing with relationship matters. Let me pause for just a second. They're being asked for a password, Dr. Neva. Can you assist with that? Is there any type of password? Give us a second, guys. I've had two people to reach out and say that
There are
there
no
isn't a.
passwords. Unfortunately, people are used to the free Zoom that requires a password. This is where they have to go and put their name and
Okay,
their email address in the link.
okay.
Okay,
Let me let that individual know because this is definitely someone. Uh,
excellent.
it, Thank you, everybody, for being so patient with it. We definitely want to allow them the opportunity. Okay, so employment. All righty, that's employment. So again, that could be a huge stressor for an individual who is either self-employed or employed by another, which we call W-2. There's a difference. Your employment status could be 1099, self-employed. The other employment status is W-2, where you work for individuals. And some of those could be very much, like I said, furloughed, reduced hours, or straight up laid off. So the next one, again, I'm sorry, family. Yes, family. Family members may have a lot of stress that they bring in the table. And like I said, domestic violence is on the rise through this pandemic. Again, reassessing whether this relationship will survive the pandemic. You know, the idea of marriage, the sanctity of marriage is for better or worse. But we're seeing a lot of domestic violence in marriages and relationships. And actually, unfortunately, we've heard stories and seen information news-wise as far as couples that want to file for divorce. Um, the other issue we're seeing with families is families that have had to stay home because their children were home for the remainder of the school year. So that created a lot of stress. And now that children are out for the summer camps are doing essentially the same type of structure as this. They're doing Zoom camps. So whereas before, where individuals were getting a break and saying, "Oh gosh, I get to send you to camp, yay!" Now it's very much you got to be at the house with the parents. So that alone can be a lot of stress. Parents need to have a break. Couples need one-on-one time, individual one-on-one time. So sometimes all of those things can heighten anxiety, heighten stress, heighten frustration, and that is one of the things that we consider pandemic stressors. The next one, relationship statuses, whether it's your friendships, whether it's a partner and you're not married, those are being affected because you may not be able to see individuals as much. Um, it is definitely one of those things where you're in a position now where you can truly get a chance to reassess. Do you really want to continue these relationships? What does that look like for you? It is okay not to have the loyalty, not to suffer with the loyalty complex. It really is okay. During a pandemic, you do get a chance to reassess, and this is the first that of our generation that we're aware of that we've had. I believe there was a pandemic before when the flu was first discovered, but I'm not sure if many of you watching today were aware of that, but I know that all of us watching today were not among that pandemic due to the time frame. I think it was over 100 years ago, but this is the first of our knowing of a pandemic. So we've had to restructure, we've had to refocus, we've had to readjust to a lot of changes. So in that, in relationships, people are reassessing. Do I want to continue this friendship? If it's a family relationship, do I need to be in contact as often than I used to? It's okay not to be. If you reassess these friendships are no longer serving the purpose of a friendship in your life, it is okay to maybe be friends at distance. Family relationships where you once talked every day, every other day, every week, or whatever, it may not be the same for you, and that is okay. It's okay not to be okay with just the norm. This has given us a chance to reassess a lot of things because quarantining meant that we had to stay home. And some of us are still staying home. Some of us are still in cities where we may have curfews. We may not be able to move around the way we ideally once did freely. And even if so, some of the cities are releasing us to come out at 75%, or some businesses have just opened their doors. Or if you're like myself, I live in a coastal city, so the beaches are wide open. But that doesn't mean that you don't self monitor and self quarantine, but more importantly, in the relationship statuses, reassess what's important for you. I would highly recommend use this time to refocus on your goals. Use this pandemic stress time to really reshift and refocus on how you can come out of this a lot better than when we went into this situation. Another area I want to focus on is your finances. Yes, that is a pandemic stressor. If you've been affected by employment changes, if you've been affected by a relationship change, divorce pending, or health matter, or anything to do with, again, like I said, your employment status, then you will definitely need to sit down and look at finances. For some, they haven't missed a beat. For some that work exclusively at home, it may have been a time where you really gained a lot. But for some, it could have been a financial disaster. So that is sincerely a stressor for a lot of individuals. So here's what I would say. Take a look at where you are. Prioritize what needs to be paid and taken care of first. We know the basics have to be paid. Your mortgage, rent, car, insurances, food, basics. Things that you need to be able to live on a practical and a basic level. So it's true. Finances are playing a big role in your stress level. And the last pandemic stressor I would say is social connections or social inclusion. With this pandemic lifestyle, we've had to be so much more of a recluse in that you've had to stay home. It's still not really advisable just to be out and just gallivanting around just as much as you like without practicing some social distancing. So what does that look like? You have to be a lot more mindful of where you go, who you're going to be visiting with, who you're going to be spending that social time with. and assessing the health of yourself and how you're going to calculate where you're going to put yourself. Because it's true, we are living among a pandemic. So everything that looks good is not all the way well. So keep that tends to bring about a lot of stress for individuals. Social gatherings at this time of year are scheduled to happen: birthday parties, wedding anniversaries, graduations, barbecues. Um, Here in this area, we there's a lot of crawfish boils, just a lot of social get-togethers. And the bigger one for Christians is church. We're not able to congregate in our actual brick and mortar church houses these days. So for some, that can be a very big stressor not to have that bi-weekly inclusion to be able to go into the house of the Lord and celebrate, your faith among other believers. So that alone can create stress. For a lot of people that are new to Zoom, having to learn how to moderate Zoom has been a stress. Learning how to log in, I mean, things such as the password or the link or this, that, and the other. So those things can be very much of a stressor. So I want to encourage you with that. Stay encouraged, stay focused. And here's a few things we can do to cope. If you are faith led, then you can definitely pray and ask God to help you. Ask God to help you with these stressors, which can automatically turn into anxiety. I have a question for you. What is the difference between worrying and concern? I'll give you a minute to think about that.
While we take the minute to think about it, you can jot it down in the chat or the Q&A section.
I am still being sent um, something that's saying they need a password, but I'm going to send
Okay,
it back.
so I saw one of the participants said it's 677-144.
677
One
67 677.
144.
Okay.
S. Cummins, thank you.
Thank you, S. Cummings. I'm sorry we didn't know that ahead of time, so we could have kind of distributed that around. Did anybody come up with the difference between worry versus the concern? That's a question. That's a quiz question. You don't have to be shy. There's no principle. Well, the difference between worry and concern is worry looks like this. You go to sleep, worry. You wake up, worry. You eat lunch, worry. You drive your car, worry. You are suffering through worry. Okay, we see worry, I believe, is when you dwell. Yes, Miss Lily. Hey, Lily. Yes, concern. You recognize the issue and you try to get a solution. Correct. Good. Very good. Correct. Worry. Thank you, Miss Lily. I think that's one of my good friends, Miss Lily, my Spanish sister here in Houston. But anyway, worry is excessive, and it definitely contributes to a lot of anxiety. If you excessively worry, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, your mind is ruminating over this same thought. You're, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to do that. Oh Lord, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? Okay, how is this going to get done? Oh my good. When you're worried, your tone changes, your heart palpitations change. You may not realize it, but your tone, the volume of your voice when you speak is startled. It's very startled. Ah! That's like a worry. Hello. That's like a worry. Okay, example. How are we going to pay the mortgage this month? I don't know. We got this to do. We got that to do. I don't know. What do they say? Oh, it's the 5th. No, it's the 15th. That's worry. Concern is, okay, what options do we have? All right, it's the 15th. But let's see. I think we have a grace period. So let's figure out, can we call the mortgage company and see what type of programs exist for this particular situation? You become rational when you're concerned. When you're worried, you're rational because you're not thinking about, one, the options that you may have. And if you're a believer, you're not using faith as logic. So there's a big difference between worry. Okay, it looks like Miss Smith, which is my mother. Shout out to my mom who's logged on. She said, yes, as a mother, I do worry sometimes. Oh, her comment went away. I couldn't see it. But anyway, yes, worry is real. It is very real.
She said,
But
yes, as a mother, I do worry sometimes, but God tells me to give it to him and he will take care of it.
yes, excellent, mom. That is my mother, everybody. Shout out to my mom. I'll do a couple of shout outs in a minute. Shout out to my mom. But anyway, it's natural for people to worry, by the way, but it's better to be concerned than to be worried because one of the classic symptoms of anxiety is excessive worry. So what we try to encourage individuals to do is breathe. Sometimes you have to, when the situation comes to you, sometimes you have to sit down, take a deep breath in, inhale, literally inhale 4 seconds. So you want to just blow it out for 6 seconds. We call it the birthday cake candle exercise. So you inhale for 4 seconds and then you blow it out like you're blowing out a candle for 6 seconds. And what that means is you take the thought in, whatever the news is, whatever the thought is, take it in. I'll use mortgage or finances. Um, and then you breathe for a second, maybe not respond at the moment. Just breathe, take it in, think on it, and just say, okay, God, what can I do about this? Literally. And that is truly one of the ways you surrender. What can I physically do about this situation? That's one question. So what we're talking about doing is you're reshifting the idea of receiving this worry stance. So the need to just reshift it back off of you is sit down, take the thought in, breathe, ask yourself the first question, God, what can I do about this? What would you have me do about this situation? That's all in the spirit. Yes, somebody said breathing helps. Yes, that's